Hello, and welcome to a Just Barbarian Things recap for our Out of the Abyss campaign. This is a recap for Session 6. If you haven't seen the recaps for Sessions 0 through 5, we have a video for that, so make sure to check it out. I'm Rainey, and I'm the primary game runner on the Just Barbarian Things podcast and on the videos of this channel. You can find me on Twitter at BarbarianRainey, or pretty much everywhere else on the internet as Just Barbarian Things. We're having some thunderstorms here today, so you'll notice that Gand is hanging out with me in the room and that the gate is up over here. So you will see other animals waiting outside being sad, but Gand needed to come up and hang out because it was a little rough down there with all the windows. Before we get started with our recap, I wanted to thank one of our patrons on patreon.com/justbarbarianthings. Alan, thank you so much for becoming a patron. Alan joined us on Patreon to help support our podcasts, our videos, and our games and content. And as part of that, Alan will be making an NPC that our players will be encountering in this Out of the Abyss campaign. So I'm really looking forward to them meeting that character. In Session 5, we left our characters in a cavern. They had been traversing these caverns and passageways on the instruction of a tied up and charmed Derro named Droki. They had been tasked by the Dwarven Stone Guard, the Duergar Stone Guard of Gracklstugh, to find him and figure out what he was up to. Under the charm spell, he's told them that he can show them the way that he takes to get to the boss of the Grey Ghosts. Players don't know what that means, but they are following his directions for now to see where they lead. In this chamber in particular that we left them in, there are the sounds of strange kind of whispered voices. And although they're trying to hear and make out some of the words, they just can't seem to do it. And part of that is because Droki continues to talk the whole time. He's telling them, we're going to be late, and we need to get through this crevice. We need to take the pygmy warts to get small, and we need to go because we're late. Very important to meet the boss, and we need to go through here. And he's pointing to this tiny crack in the rock. And as they've found before, what that means is they need to eat some of the pygmy wart mushrooms to get small enough to fit. When they do, they find themselves back in a main passageway. This crevasse has allowed them to bypass part of the main area of tunnels. And Droki tells them that normally he heads over this way through the doors to the potion maker. The potion maker is not the boss man, but sometimes has good things. So they usually go there. Not the boss man, but it's a good place to go. And the party decides, instead of bypassing the room, to go ahead and check it out. And there are these large stone double doors, which they push open. They untie Droki, eat their big wig mushrooms to return to their normal size, and push him into the room. Griselda moves forward with him to keep an eye on him. Umeric, Ilmeko, and Geshruni kind of turn to the left slightly. This cavern is divided into two. There's a main section, which is where Droki is seeming to go, and then there's kind of a turning hall sort of tunnel passageway to the left. Droki walks in, and Griselda sees that there are a few Duergar there. They are in armored-looking overalls. They're carrying sharp-looking spades. And there is a large depression in this main cavern area where multiple varieties of mushrooms are being grown. There is a huge copper pot with a spout that's over the mushroom area and a turn valve on the side. And Droki strides forward, explaining to them that he's here to see the potion maker. This is his fiance, and needs something nice to show off to his fiancée, so please see if the potion maker has something for him. And the Duergar look confused. Griselda steps forward and does her best to convince them that yes, she is the fiancée of Droki, but they seem very concerned that he's brought a stranger here. And one of them steps forward to go speak to Lorthia, the potion maker, to see what she wants them to do about this situation. Meanwhile, The three who turn the corner to go to the left see a Duergar woman stirring at something over a stove. Steam, colorful mists in this well-organized space that seems to line up with Droki's description of potion making. Instead of engaging in conversation, Umeric moves forward. He picks up speed, but never picks up sound. He's almost silent as he starts to run forward, bringing his great axe high and bringing it down into her back. The wound is horrible. It's practically enough to bring her down on its own, but the killing blow is delivered by Ilmeko as he lets loose an eldritch blast to catch her in the back as Umeric pulls his axe and moves to the side. The Duergar going to speak with Lorthia moves past Griselda and Droki and turns down the hallway just in time to see this fantastic blood spray and the slumped form of his boss, Lorthia, over the stove. Then the fight begins. Highlights of this battle include Griselda summoning a thorny vine through the rocky dirt of this cavern floor and pulling, ripping forward as the stone is pulled up around it, creating this rut in the floor, this giant vine, and she whips it at one of the Duergar, grabbing them and pulling them towards her. They fall to their back. Quip, the Aarakocra, with Dawnbringer held high, glowing bright in the dark cavern, flies forward down the hallway, delivering some very devastating attacks as the sword speaks proudly in his ear. And Ilmeko, pulling and twisting the threads of fate past all the dead, summoning skeletal hands that grab and pull the Duergar down into the rocky soil. Looking around, they do find a few potions and some different mushrooms that may be helpful, but they know they'll need to spend more time here if they want to find anything else of use. And they've decided, since they're more than halfway through the duration of their charm spell on Droki, that they should move on. And so the room is left pretty much intact as they continue on their way. Droki directs them north to a fountain room, a kind of widened chamber with two path options, one curving around the back of the kind of pool of this room at ground level, and one going slightly upward, thinking up around the other path. The pool seems to be fed by dripping stalactites, and as they look around, they notice that the water seems to get darker towards the center, and there's a soft swirl in the middle of the pool. Droki tells them quickly and quietly, we need to get to the boss, don't want to be late. And they choose to move stealthily as possible as a group. And they do relatively well, although Gesharuni has a little bit more trouble with being stealthy compared to the rest of the group, as he's distracted by this strange pool. And right as they exit the room, they see a water weird form out of its surface. They make it past so that they aren't engaged with this creature, but now they know it's there. And they've encountered a water weird before, guarding the mummy's sarcophagus as they traverse the dark lake. But this is one they've decided to move past. Moving into the next area of tunnels, they are almost surprised to see a carrion crawler, this large caterpillar worm type creature feasting on something fleshy. It's much larger than they are, and so they know that this could be a dangerous fight. But Ilmeko recognizes the creature being a native of the Underdark and explains to the rest of them that if it's engaged in eating, they should be able to move past it as long as they don't interrupt it, bother it. Droki continues to give them directions. He says the best way, the fastest way to the boss man is through the room with his friends, past the friends through the crevice in the wall. So need to get small again, but through the room with friends. The group starts to ask questions. What kind of friends? And your last friends didn't seem so happy to see us. And what are they doing in this room? And Droki explains this is a room where they make pets. They like pets, he says. When the party asks about what these pets might be, Droki shrugs. They like animals. I don't know what kind these are, but we just need to go through. We don't need to do anything in the room, just through the room, through the crevice. They convince Droki to go in and talk to the friends in the room while they scope it out. And Droki explains to them that he's just on his way to see the boss as normal, and 2 other Derro voices respond. In the room, the party can see that there's a strange swirling pattern kind of etched into the floor, and there are large iron cages made out of scrap metal where cave bears are being kept. The party takes their pygmywort mushrooms, gets small, and they make exceptional group stealth rolls to get to the crevice while the Derro continue to stir their stew, never even looking up at them. Entering the crevice, the party isn't really being all that careful. Every time they've gotten small to squeeze through one of these cracks, it's been because it's the safer way to get around. It's usually in the larger caverns and tunnels that they're prone to encountering something dangerous. And so it catches them off guard when they see 4 shapes tumbling and wrestling with each other, making chittering noises in this area that they're traversing. And where we leave the characters as we fade out from this session 6 is facing 4 closets, these small demon creatures now very similar in size to our characters, since the characters have shrunk down to fit into this area that is a closet playground. I hope you've enjoyed this recap of our session 6 of Out of the Abyss. We're playing this as an in-person game. It's very fun, and we're using some fun handouts. Last time, if you guys are following me on Twitter, you saw that I posted the map, and it was like this one, but it was really just this bottom piece. They hadn't gotten very far. They had ended right here in this room. And in this last session, look at how far they've gotten. They're taking notes on here so you can see kind of the path they've taken so far. They are so close to getting to this big boss man that they are not so sure about. But as you can tell, there are still many other areas in this system of caverns that are available to be explored if they choose to do so. Want to help support our content, support more games, do cool things, interact with us on many levels? Check out all the ways that you can do that on our Patreon page, patreon.com/justbarbarianthings. And Alan, thank you again for being one of our awesome patrons.